Greetings, everyone. Jim Walker. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to all new viewers and welcome to all returning viewers as well. Today's video deals with sound files, specifically those that are involved with online sales of instruments, even more specifically with cymbals. Maybe that's just because it's my greatest experience with them. If you have bought or sold a cymbal online, whether it's through one of the online auction sites, one of the social media listings for instruments for sale, you've almost invariably dealt with sound files one way or the other. Either you have felt the need to create them if you were the seller, or if you are a buyer, you've looked for them as you try to gain as much information as you can about an instrument. It's a natural outgrowth of the fact that so many of our purchases now take place through a phone or a computer where we don't have the object in question in front of us. We can't go and try out this cymbal because we live too far away to test it out. So we try to gather as much information as we can, and it's become standard procedure to include a sound file. If you put up an ad and you fail to include a sound file, you will hear about it from somebody. Not everyone feels the need to have them. There are those of us out there who don't place the same emphasis on them, but there are those who live and die by them. I thought I'd put together a video expressing just some of the reasons why I take sound files with a grain of salt. Not that I don't use them, not that they don't have their value. We'll get to that at the end of the video. But I don't place as much trust in them as so many others do. So you'll see why in a moment. One anecdote to start out with. This is not a proof. This is not going to convince anybody of everything, and it's not meant to. It's just something that I find interesting that I thought I'd include in the video. I've heard drummers over the years, not that many, but a few to make it noteworthy, complaining that they've gone into a professional studio to make a recording, and after the fact, they're listening back and they complain that the sound that the engineer got was not an accurate representation of the sound of their cymbals. It's like that they sound nice, but that's not what it sounded like in the room. That's what you hear. So let's review, shall we? In that situation, you are in a professional studio. You have a recording engineer who, with experience, with training, with knowledge. You are in an acoustically treated space. You have a signal chain that's got to have a couple of $1,000s in it at least between the microphone, preamps, the recording medium. You're ticking all these boxes of things that you would expect would help produce as accurate a recording as you would like, as faithful a recording as you would like of a particular instrument. And so many drummers don't seem to trust, I know I'm being general here, but this is what I've heard, don't seem to trust that the sound they hear in the room is being transferred over. Now, part of that is the fact that, as someone pointed out to me, microphones don't hear the same way that human ears hear. So there's going to be a difference. But point being, you got all these things in your favor, and you can't trust it to be an accurate sound. Contrast that with the sound file, which the creation of which is all over the map. You don't know what you're going to get. You might get someone who's really well versed in recording and has great equipment. You might get someone who has never recorded audio before and is not in a nice acoustic space. They may be recording in their basement, their garage, their bedroom, their living room, the mud room, the ante room. You don't know where. You don't know what the acoustics are going to be like. And they may not have microphones and preamps and nice recording software. They may have a simple handheld $100 digital audio recorder. They may be using their phone. You don't know, and it could be any of these. Now, at this point, I hasten to add that, as we all know, if the expertise of the user is strong enough, they don't need to have the greatest, most expensive, fanciest equipment. It's true for a performing musician. It's true for someone recording audio. It's true for photographers. You see this on Instagram all the time. You look and there's a beautiful picture. Lighting is fantastic. The composition is great. The colors are beautiful. And the person announces, yeah, I took this with my phone. No, they didn't get the really expensive camera out there, but they know how to take a picture and they know how to use that device, and the results are fantastic. So yeah, someone can have this very modest equipment and produce great results, but the results can be all over the place. And again, you don't know what you're getting. So if you would think that of those two scenarios, the professional studio where you have all these things working in your favor versus The amateur sound file, where who knows what you're getting, you think the trust might go more towards the professional one, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Again, this is just anecdotal. I just find it interesting that so many people place blind trust in the sound files, but their experience in the other situation doesn't seem to yield the same amount of trust. A little bit of cognitive dissonance there is all. So, on to the more of the subject material of this video. Two factors that I want to address today that can yield to changes in the sound files, because in an earlier version of this video, which never got published, I was going to start out with the famous Rene Magritte painting, colloquially known as "This Is Not a Pipe." I'm not going to try to pronounce the original title in French. Trust me, that would serve no purpose. But the painting, I'll put up the graphic of it here. It's a painting of a pipe, but underneath is the text saying, "This is not a pipe." Magritte's point being, this is a representation of a pipe. This is not an actual pipe you're looking at. It's the same with sound files. You put on the headphones, put in the earbuds, turn on the speakers, click play on the sound file. You're hearing a sound file of a cymbal, but you're not hearing the cymbal. The cymbal isn't in the room with you. So you're not getting that sound directly from this piece of bronze, sound waves going through the air into your eardrums. There's a little bit of disconnect there, which may or may not affect what you're hearing. Two things we're going to address today. One is going to be stick choice, and the other is going to be microphones, both the choice of microphones and the placement of microphones. All of this can affect the results you get out of the cymbal. And it may end up with you hearing something that makes you think you wouldn't like that cymbal, but it's not the cymbal that you don't like, it's the way it was recorded or the stick they used. So you might miss out on a cymbal that would actually be very good for you. Or you might hear something in the sound file that makes the cymbal sound more favorable than it actually is. Again, not that you don't use sound files, but the proverbial grain of salt is called for here. So we're going to start with a brief demonstration of some different sticks on the same cymbal. If you've been playing drums for any length of time, you've either discovered on your own or had someone point out to you that a change in drumstick can have a significant effect on the sound you get out of a cymbal. And this is why, if you are going to try out a cymbal in person, what does everyone tell you to do? They say bring your drumsticks so you can try them out, so you'll know what the cymbal sounds like when you play it with your sticks. Perfectly sensible advice. I do the same thing if I'm going to go try out a cymbal in person. But to demonstrate the changes, for those of you who may not be familiar with this phenomenon, I pulled 6 drumsticks out of my collection of drumsticks, some of them dating back to the 1980s, some that I use a lot, some that I haven't used in years, but they're still around here. What am I going to do with them? And just to demonstrate some of the different sounds we get. So permit me to look off to the side. I've got the list here on my computer. I want to make sure that I get this in the right order. You're going to hear 6 different drumsticks. And in the graphics, the photos you're seeing, they're pictured from right to left. Why I went right to left, I don't know, but I did. The first one you're going to hear, ProMark 7As. These go back to the 1980s. I think they're made out of oak. They have a wood tip. We have next Johnny Rabb 7As, another wood tip. This is what I believe is what he calls the acorn tip, made out of hickory. The next up, an old Vic Firth Peter Erskine stick from the 1980s. I think that's the only designation. I think it was just the Peter Erskine stick. No ride, no, it's just Peter Erskine. Kind of a hefty stick, in terms of a dense wood, and very small ball tip. Next up will be a Regal tip, Jake Hanna, roughly 7A, but with a nylon tip. Followed by a ProMark Ed Shaughnessy model, which has been discontinued. Looking at the ProMark website, their indication is that the current Neil Peart signature stick is the closest thing they have to it. But this was an oak stick, Japanese oak if I remember correctly, with a fairly large ball tip. And the final stick in this demonstration, Johnny Rabb 5A, back to Johnny Rabb, wood tip, what Johnny calls the olive-shaped tip. So you're going to hear those in order, back to back, no talking, in this sound file. Ironic that I'm using a sound file, isn't it? Anyway. So as you hear this, there are sometimes subtle differences, sometimes a little bit more pronounced differences, but enough where the cymbal doesn't sound exactly the same. Um, and I can hear you out there through the other side of the screen right now, or the other side of the lens, I might say. But Jim, what about those people who tell you what sticks they're using, maybe even show you the stick that they're using? Doesn't that solve this? Well, it certainly doesn't hurt. Uh, and this one's very anecdotal. But one thing I stumbled across as I was selecting the sticks for this demonstration, I don't know why I tried two of the last stick you heard, the Johnny Rab 5A olive tip, but when I did, I found these two sticks, same make, same model, I believe from the same era. Uh, no significant difference that I can tell. I think there's a little difference in pitch. If I remember correctly, one stick is pitched around a G and one around a B flat, so there's apparently some change in the density of the wood, but the same make, same model. Uh, well, check out the video for that, and you can hear the difference I get between the two sticks. So with that, someone could have said, this is the stick I use, Johnny Rab, 5A, olive tip. I could sit there on the other side of the computer and say, great, that's the stick I use. I'll get the same sound out of the cymbal that this person got. Well, it depends upon if their Rab 5A olive tip matches the first one I played or the second one I played. For my money, the difference in sound between these two sticks, same make and model, is greater than the difference in sound between any of the sticks in the first video, where I was using different manufacturers and different models and very different specifications. So it's not so much about demonstrating particular drumsticks here. I'm not trying to convince you that this is the best stick to use for a ride cymbal. The point is, a change in drumstick can produce a significant difference in sound. And again, it might be enough where you might lose interest in a cymbal that actually might be very well suited to you, or you might get a somewhat misleading presentation of the sound of the cymbal. So the other area I want to get to, microphones, placement and choice of microphone. And this isn't going to be the most scientific experiment. My high school science teacher, Mrs. Pease, if you're out there watching this, you're not going to be happy with the fact that I have two variables going at the same time. It's not good protocol for experimentation. But just again, to demonstrate that there can be a huge difference when these factors change. We had two microphones employed in this, and you're going to hear the exact same recording twice, the exact same playing example twice. First time you're going to hear the audio from one microphone, and the second time you're going to hear the audio from the second microphone, recorded simultaneously. So it's exactly the same thing. The first microphone you're going to hear is a large diaphragm condenser. It's Audio Technica AT2020. And for the placement on this, it's a little bit above the cymbal, off to the side. And I decided for this one to place it where I would imagine a phone would be held if someone were recording this and using their phone, playing with the stick in one hand and the phone held in the other. That was my choice for the placement of that microphone. The other one is the ubiquitous Shure SM57 dynamic microphone. This one placed directly above the cymbal, roughly 2 feet above. So we've got two differences combining here. We have a difference in microphone. We have a difference in the placement of the microphone. And I don't want to tell you what you will hear on this. I'll let you decide for yourself. But here is the recording back to back. First, the condenser microphone, and second, the dynamic SM57. So to my ears, both in the room as I made the recording and after the fact listening to the sound now, I hear a huge difference in that. The only thing I did, as they say, no EQ, no effects processing, I did turn up the volume on the input of the 57 just because there wasn't as much sound. I don't, probably partly the choice of microphone, partly the distance. So I did bring up the volume level a little bit on that for the input. That's the only change I made. Point being for this, a lot of times someone will put up a sound file and they will very proudly exclaim, I use no EQ, no effects processing whatsoever. This is the raw audio straight through the microphone. That's lovely. The idea, the inference we're supposed to draw from that is that this is as natural a sound of a cymbal as you're going to get. And you certainly can make huge differences in the sound of an instrument if you start messing around with EQ and effects processing. So, point taken. But if you have any experience recording, you know that the placement of microphones and choice of microphones can have a huge effect on the recorded sound. And I think, for my money, we hear that in this example as well. So for all of this, am I saying don't use sound files? No. If I've got a couple cymbals I'm thinking of selling, if and when I put up ads for them, will I include sound files? Absolutely. Yeah, it's standard procedure now. People want them. I'll do the best I can to record as accurately as possible, and pick out, if I record it a couple of different ways, I'll try to pick out the sound file that sounds to me the most like the cymbal in the room. I want to do it in good faith and try to make it as helpful as possible. But you've seen some of the different results we can get here. All I'm saying is treat it with a grain of salt. Understand that you are not going to catch every single detail, and things will change. And it will sound different if you're playing it. A lot of the sound is in the hands of the player. But what can you tell from sound files? Let's leave this on a positive note. You can get the sense of the general pitch of the cymbal. You can get a sense of the general character of the cymbal, if it's a hand-hammered, complex cymbal versus something a little bright and pingier. I think you can get a good sense whether the cymbal has a crack in it or not, if you hear a nice clean decay versus having some sort of buzzing in it that you can't explain. So you do get some information across in the sound file, but it's not something where I think it's the be-all and end-all. So use your sound files. Take them with a grain of salt, though. And if you are out in the market shopping for cymbals now, as they say, good hunting. So thanks for checking out the video. We got a comment section down below. Let me know. Do you use sound files? How do you record them? What have your results been? What are your successes? Any difficulties with them? Have you had situations where you heard a sound file, bought the cymbal, and then got it at home and didn't think it sounded like the sound files at all? I'd love to have your feedback. So thanks again for checking out the video. We'll see you next time.